Hi, I'm Lippy.
And I'm Grumpy. Together we're Lippy and Grumpy Do Podcasting.
In this episode, space, lines and code words, Lippy's first aid kit, creepy Tesco's advert, and making a mint from plastic bottles.
Now, Lippy.
Hello.
It feels like a very long time since we were last doing this, but it's only 2 weeks.
Yes, I think because it was the Monday we recorded.
Oh, it was, wasn't it?
Yeah,
yes.
My whole week was out of sync. It got to the following Tuesday and I was very confused.
Yes. So it's been a week and it's only 1 day extra, but it does feel like a very long time. And a lot's happened. And a lot of good things have happened too.
Yes.
But we'll start off with from the previous episode. And as usual, a missive from the Screaming Tomato Down Under. Not that there are any other sorts of Screaming Tomatoes located anywhere else in the world. Yes, indeed. Churches, Screaming Tomato says, I remember seeing a deconsecrated church in Torquay repurposed as a snooker hall. That'd be quite good.
Oh, I like it.
And we spoke about the Eagles tribute band at the church in FarnCam. And Screaming Tomato says, a church would give more meaning to Bon Jovi's Living on a Prayer.
It would.
Then goes on to say about cars left idling. His neighbour has a V8 ute, which is a Australian term for basically a small pickup truck.
Oh, yes. I actually knew that. I knew that.
Very good indeed. He lets it idle at 4 a.m. most mornings. Apparently he's a plumber.
That's not nice.
And he's off to a care facility. And that would be a big old...
Yes. If it was a 4 a.m. issue, I would not be quiet about that. They would be getting a letter through their door.
What I don't understand is I'm assuming, I know the weather can flip in Australia, but presumably they're just coming out of summer into autumn, so it's not ice on the windscreen they're trying to defrost. So quite why it's running, I don't know. Who knows? Maybe you could go and ask him. But I would imagine there'll be some sort of altercation, so maybe not.
No.
Another good news from last week is I actually updated the website for the first time in over a year. So there's still a massive gap, but yes, it has been done.
We're getting there.
Been done. Now, we've had a number of trips out. Mostly good. One slightly unpleasant experience, which I'll come on to. First one, which was just after we recorded last week's, was a trip to the Mullard Space Laboratory.
Yes.
Which is in the Surrey Hills. And it was such a good evening. It wasn't long enough. It was so good. They've been doing a lot of work with a camera they call PanCam, which is going to go on top of the next Mars Rover, the name of which I cannot remember. And they've developed this all over 6-7 years, I think it is. And everything from the electronics to the case that it goes in and the amount of testing of restrictions they have with this. So if most people are approaching this who have no experience of putting stuff into space,
yes,
will probably we'll get a image sensor from an iPhone because those are very good. Or an Android, because those are even better. And you put it in this box and you send it off. But, you can't do that. One of the reasons is you have a very small window when you can transmit the photos you've taken to the satellite that we've put around Mars that then transmits it to the Earth.
Yes, that makes sense.
The only thing that makes sense in there is a 1 megapixel camera.
Like a proper old school camera?
A very old school camera.
Oh, because I was going to say you could use a GoPro.
You probably could.
Isn't that what GoPros are basically built for?
Yeah, but it's too much data. And I remember reading this about the Grand Tour, that when they do lots of foreign trips, they have lots of cameras in the car and they're all recording at 8K. It's so much footage. It's just so much data. They can't cope with it. So they have a button in the car now to turn it on and off. So they're not just recording driving for hours on end.
That's good.
So real problem. The case was so interesting because they machine it from a block of aluminium. So they use a tool to create all the ridges and that to give it strength. And then somehow they manage to cut the inside out. They don't do it. It's another company that does it and chops the bottom off. And then that's welded back on using dry ice or something. I was not using a rod or any sort of filler. It's something else. Technology involved is amazing, but what's inside is really old school. So you've got very radiation-resistant components. And, a bunch of stuff that's quite old, but brilliant. And the people there are so passionate. And I don't mean in the apprentice type, I'm passionate about business. They really, really love their jobs.
They know their stuff.
They do know their stuff. And I did ask if there were any vacancies as we left, and there are none.
I can't imagine it's a job that's willingly left.
No, but I was prepared to do anything. I actually going around fixing the doors and things like that. So sort of janitor type position would be perfect. But
you'd be good at that. Low maintenance.
Yeah, that sort of thing. Putting doors back on, holding stuff, cleaning stuff, all those sorts of things. Yeah, it'd be very, very good indeed.
Yeah.
If you get the chance to go, they have this, I think, sort of every 3 to 4 months, but it is a very small number, so it's quite hard to get on there. But they will, if you apply and you don't get on, they'll put you on a list, so you will eventually go. So it's worth.
So are you planning on going again?
I don't want to take somebody else's place, but I would like to go again, maybe in a year or so when their focus is on something different. Because there's lots of things. It's not just not just Mars Rovers they do. The lady that was hosting it, Dr. Lucy Green, she's a sun specialist.
Oh.
So, there's a whole load of stuff around that. And they have a whole load of PhD students as well, which is really good. And they're really, really communicative. They're not...
Yeah.
There was one room full of nerds, I have to say, which we didn't go in. But
You didn't want to get nerd cooties.
Well, there would have been some envy, I think. And lots of whiteboards with stuff written on it. You just look at it and you go, I have no idea.
What on earth does that say?
No idea. But it was superb, just a little bit too short. I could have quite happily wandered around there for another couple of hours and conversations with people. And then a couple of days later, we went to the local art centre to see a Fleetwood Mac tribute act, and they were brilliant. They were really, really good. Unfortunately, we left halfway through. And the reason we left was people talking. I've never experienced anything like it. So we were stood at the back, which is never the best place for people having the odd natter. And normally you go to the front and you avoid it. So after a while, and asking people not to talk, which they ignored, we moved forward and we discovered there was a group of 3 ladies stood in front of the speaker having a conversation. So they were in front of us, and then behind us were 2 other ladies facing one another. So one of them had their back to the stage, jabbering, and it wasn't about music or anything related to it. It was like you're towards the back of a festival, where lots of people are talking, they're having a drink and all that. And I understand that, but that's not appropriate in a venue that's got 200 people.
And also, why are you there if you're just going to have a chit chat? Just put the CD on at home and have a chit chat. Absolutely. I mean, it's rude to the people around you, and it's very rude to the band. And the problem was, every time the music got a little bit quiet or there was a gap between them, all you could hear was talking. It was that's bad.
Yeah, it was really bad. So as we left, I went to the booking office and said, look, we're going, and this is the reason. I said, oh, you can't go, they're so fantastic. I said, I quite agree, they are fantastic. So they took us up in the balcony where there's a little bit of limited seat, but it was just as bad up there. But one of the marshals up there, he was obviously getting very cross about the whole thing, and he eventually stood up and he said, right, I'm going to sort this out. And off he went. And then he came back about 10 minutes later and he said, they won't do anything.
Silly. They should kick people like that out, because they'll stop the people that go regularly from going, and they won't be people that go regularly. So they're just losing out.
Yeah, it is. If you don't deal with it, you'll end up with the regulars not coming, and also the band's not going. I mean, it's the first time that band's been there, and I don't think they'll come back, because you could see on their faces as they're stopping between songs, just going, what is going on?
Yeah.
Really, really rude. But there are a few articles about it. People moaning about people talking. And also some of the reasons why. And some of it is bigger venues, is you'll get the people at the back possibly have come, as they may be reporters, there may be some connection with the band. So they've seen it all before. So they're not that fussed about watching it. To my mind, they shouldn't be there. They need to be somewhere else. And other venues where it's been a problem, the venue at the beginning says, look, if you'd like to talk, please go to the bar. It'd be much more comfortable and you won't affect the people around you. And that's what's going to happen, that sort of thing. And I understand it's difficult to turf people out, but it's not difficult to ask them to
But
desist.
they're being just as rude, so...
Yeah, I know. It's ridiculous. The problem is now we're not going to go back to that venue. I don't possibly ever again for that, which is a shame because it's a local one, it's small and it needs the support. But
it was a very bad experience.
It was a bad experience.
Rant done.
Rant done, yes. We did go and see a Pink Floyd tribute band
which looks very blue.
Gone. Yes, it wasn't so much pink. And they were brilliant. I think, and I've seen a lot of Pink Floyd tribute bands, and I think they were the best I've seen.
Ooh.
They were very, very good. And there's two ways you judge it. Very bold. Is a saxophonist who from various tracks, and then there's one track on Dark Side of the Moon called The Great Gig in the Sky, where it's a bit of wailing rather than singing necessarily, but it's if they nail that,
the wailing's good.
The wailing was brilliant, but the individual musicians were just superb, and we were right up in the top circle, so looking down on the stage, which is really good because you can see how the musicians react, and it was interesting watching the drummer, and I'd not seen some of the stroke. Yeah, from that angle. And you do pick up quite a bit, which is quite good. So that was very good. But there were people behind us that kept nattering every now and then, which was a bit annoying. But again, what they were doing, they were waiting for their favourite tracks. And then you didn't hear a peep out of them. So, but it wasn't too bad. But
they weren't constantly nattering.
Wasn't constant. And you do begin to be a bit oversensitive about it, which I recognise. So anyway, no harm done. So that was very good. And then we just got back from a trip to Longleat. In the camper
You've been all over the place,
We've gone from doing nothing to everything, it feels
literally everything. And and pretty random things as well, might I add.
Yes, some of these have been booked for quite a long while, it has to be said.
Yes.
But very good. We took the electric bikes with us, recent purchase, and our plan was to cycle from the campsite, which is in the grounds of Longleat. In fact, it backs onto the lake. So 6 o'clock Saturday morning, seals wake up. They're up. Sea lions, not seals, sea lions. They wake up, everybody's up. Yeah.
Yes, I do remember that actually from when we stayed years ago.
Yeah, it was a long while ago. So anyway, we had booked as a treat the VIP tour of the safari park, which was superb. It's not cheap, but it's worth every penny. And actually, by the time you you get admission included that for the day, and you get tea and cake, and you get the souvenir brochure thing. So actually, it's reasonable. You do get quite a lot, and it was nearly 2.5 hours actually of driving around in a Land Rover. You don't see anything that you would not see in the car, but you get a brilliant insight into the individual animals. And
do you go at feeding time as well?
The lions and tigers are fed 2 or 3 times a week, and they'd just been fed. So most of them were out gnawing on bones, which is quite interesting.
Yeah, because sometimes you don't see the bigger cats because they go off and hide. And the wolves.
Oh, the wolves were all over the place. They were very wolf-like. Anyway, so to go back to the Friday, what we decided, we'd cycle up to where the VIP place was, see if there was somewhere we could leave the bikes, because it's about half a mile
so you
or
could
so.
Do that,
So we turn up there, and they're just finishing for the day, and we said, we're here tomorrow. Is there somewhere we could leave our bikes? And they said, well, where are you coming from? So we're on the campsite. Oh, no, we'll come pick you up. So they came and picked us up, which is brilliant.
Lovely.
And we planned to have dinner on the Friday night in the Bath Arms, which is just out on the outskirts of the park. And we said, can you get there by going that way and sort of round? He said, well, strictly speaking, not, but, nobody's going to stop you. And then you join, the thing is you go through a bit of the estate. Then you join.
Accidentally through a lion's
No. So it's alongside.
Skip through those.
Yeah, it'll be fine. And then you go along a cycle path and you end up going through an archway and you're right by the pub. And the pub is part of the Longleat estate, but it's run by another company.
Okay.
And highly recommend it. They went, food's really good there. We normally go there if we got family down. You'll be fine. So we did that and had a very, very pleasant meal there. Came out, it was now dark and it's raining. Problem is rain.
Oh, no.
So we cycle off down towards the house, which is all lit up, and it's majestic. It was a fantastic sight. And we have two choices. You either follow the cycle path for about 1.5 miles in the dark and the wet through the lanes and end up at the campsite, or you think, well, actually, I could just nip through here and then join the road by the campsite.
Yeah.
So we did that, and of course what happened, this man appeared from nowhere. I thought he was picking up litter, but I'm not so sure now. And he said, what are you doing? We said, well, we're going to the... You're off the cycle path. You've got to go around to the back. And I went, oh, yeah, we weren't too sure about that. He went, no, that's the route, and it will take you out. And I said, it's about 1.5 miles round. I went, oh, okay. All right. He said, where you come from? We said, oh, the Bath Arms. Oh, well, that's all right then. As if this is some sort of magic word that then opens the keys to Longleat.
We've been in the pub, mate. It's fine.
We've been in your pub. That's the thing. Oh, it's part of it's part of their estate. If you'd been to another pub, we probably would have been turned away. And he went, no, just go through. You're absolutely fine. So that was...
Love that.
Yeah, very funny.
You can't come this way unless you've been in our pub, and then you can.
Well, if you use the words Bath Arms, it seems to open all sorts of things up. So if you go to Longleat and you get into a bit of trouble, Bath
Just
Arms.
say you've been at the Bath Arms.
Bath Arms. I've been at the Bath Arms.
They've given me a baby Guinness, and now I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah, quite. Yes, rather a lot was consumed, which was, well, by me, because wife of Grumpy decided she was going to stop drinking wine after a glass. Because she'd had 2 glasses before.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Anyway, the Caravan and Motorhome Club site there was very nice. We've been there a couple of times.
Yes.
The toilet blocks are so lovely and warm, which was just as well because we ran out of gas and I couldn't get the connector into the new gas bottle. It just wouldn't turn. I think something's ruined the thread on there. So we managed to borrow a kettle because we had electric hookup so we could make hot drinks, but there was no heating. So
cold.
Very, very cheap weekend. It wasn't too bad, but it was a bit chilly. But in the toilets are a number of very odd signs. So on the back of the cubicle doors, there was one about speeding and various other bits and pieces. But there was odd use of capitalisation. That's the only way I can put it. So there was one about you can have barbecues, be there charcoal or gas, but you can't have a wood fire. So it says there's no burning of wood. And then after that, every first letter was capitalised. And then it changed again. It was very odd. Very odd indeed. I don't know what's going on there.
So I feel like that's one person started that sign and another person finished it.
Yes, it did feel a bit like a cut and paste frenzy with the inability to keep the caps lock button in the correct position, which we've all done. Yes,
and I've been tip-tapping away and then realised halfway through a sentence I'm fully capitalising everything.
Yeah, oh yes, done that a few times. I've got a keyboard that switches between computers, and quite often I'll be typing away going, oh no. And I have had a few disasters with that, so I do have to be careful. So the last thing I'm going to say on the Longleat trip was on the way back. On the Sunday we planned to go into the house, but you can't do that on its own. You've got to buy a whole day ticket, which was silly.
Pointless.
Well, you've got to buy a whole day ticket and then pay another £5 to go around the guided tour on the house. So we decided not to do that. We thought, well, no, we'll stop at Stonehenge. So wife of Grumpy went there when she was about 6, and I don't think I've ever been there, but I'm not entirely sure. I've driven past it many times. So we stopped, and it's a brand new visitor centre, really smart, loads of parking, loads of camper van parking with the coaches.
Nice.
Really good. So we popped in there, we had a very nice pasty, and then we thought, right, well, we'll go, we've got time, just go for a walk, come back before we have to go to Pink Floyd. So off we went, looked at the prices, £27 each.
To walk around?
Yep. So
to walk outside?
Yep, £27 each. It's a lot cheaper if you book in advance, but it's still £20 each, depending on the day of the week.
Mad! To literally go and look at some stones in the ground.
Yeah, that really nobody owns. And there's a whole grisly story of Heritage England. And so it started by the government, and then it's been spun off as a charity. And they're just charging far too much, in my view. But apparently, and I looked into this afterwards, there is a footpath that runs within a metre of the path on one side of the stones. So you could walk along for free and stop and look at them. And you're only about a metre. You can't walk all the way round them, unfortunately.
No.
But the good news is it's free on the summer solstice.
Ooh. It'd be cool to go at summer solstice.
Yes, it would. However, I watched the winter solstice online, and it was massive amount of people.
Yeah.
So I don't know what they do about parking
and the possibility of a lot of nudity.
Not in the winter, and I think it's frowned upon. Whereas go back to the 60s, there would have been a fair bit of it, but I suspect not anymore. Anyway, enough about me.
Yeah.
You've been building something to take with you on honeymoon.
I have, because we are 1 month and 1 day away from the wedding, which is terrifying.
It is a bit, because I'm still working on my speech and I've got some clothing to buy.
Clothing?
Well, I need to get a shirt.
Oh, yes.
And I need to get some shoes.
Oh, okay.
And
do you not get a shirt as part of your ensemble?
No, you don't. And I want a very long one, because I got a shirt with my other dinner suit. But it's too short.
Yes.
And that may be because of a bulge just above the belt. Or it might be because I'm a bit tall. And I'm going with the latter. But anyway,
yes, you're a bit tall.
Yes. Anyway, I distracted you.
Well, you have a month and 1 day.
Yes.
But then it also means I have a month and 4 days before my honeymoon. And being ridiculously accident prone, I have created, or have started the process of making my honeymoon first aid kit.
Very, very good.
I am a bit worried I'm forgetting some things, and there is some things I still need to add in there. But for the most part, I think I'm pretty good. So for normal things, I've got some sanitizing hand wipes.
Useful.
Some waterproof plasters.
Very good.
Some bite spray. And
oh, yes. Yeah.
And an after bite pen that's meant to be better than that. Some antihistamines.
Good.
Along with my other antihistamines that I'll take as my stuff, but that's like emergency antihistamines. And then, what else have I got? Sun cream, which good. I don't know why I've packed it already, but I've packed it already. But then I kind of started going a little bit rogue, right?
Oh, well, that's... Yeah, but the rogue stuff
is
often useful.
This is the case of emergency stuff. Because in my mind, I'm like, I don't know how you buy things in Hawaii.
No.
Like yeah. So not too rogue. We've got some Rennies.
Good, yes.
So that's good. We have a little pot of wound wash saline in case I cut myself.
I was going to suggest that. That's very good. And if you get something in your eye,
yes,
some dust or sand in your eye, that's very good for that.
I've got some first aid tweezers.
Also useful.
Some first aid scissors.
Are they round-ended?
They're not. They are just child scissors.
Oh, they are round-ended. They look like scissors from a St. John first aid kit.
They will be, yes.
Yes.
And also the tweezers.
Yeah, I thought I recognised them. I've got one of those here.
Bonjela.
Yes.
Don't really know why, but I thought we might need it. Ibuprofen gel.
Yes, very good.
Because that is good.
Yes.
I haven't got paracetamol or ibuprofen yet, but they will go in. I need to get some.
Are you okay taking this into other countries, though?
I don't see why not.
Well, because they might say you can't.
Well, I'll have to Google that, won't I?
Yeah, I mean, more the things with drugs. I mean, the other stuff, presuming it's in the hold, will be okay.
Yes, because then I also have Imodium.
Yep.
And Diarrhea.
Well, it covers both. Well, same
both
end,
ends.
But both, yes. Well, no, the same end, but...
same end, but both scenarios. And then I also thought I might need... I've got a triangular bandage.
Yeah, that's always useful.
Yeah. I've also then got a sterilised gauze pad.
Yep, very good.
And there was another bandage. I'm moving away from the microphone as I'm saying.
Yes, you're a bit, yes.
I've also then got a PBT bandage.
Oh, I don't know what that is.
So it's got a gauze already in it.
Oh,
and then
very
it's
good.
a wrap. So it's like, it holds it on better.
Very good.
So currently that is my first aid kit. I will be adding paracetamol and ibuprofen. I will now also be Googling to make sure I can take it all with me.
Well, it's only the drugs potentially. I think the rest of the stuff will be fine because it is just cloth, isn't it? It's sticky stuff. There's two things I would add to that, which are steri strips.
Oh, yes.
Because they don't take up much room and they can be quite useful. And also a space blanket.
Oh, I didn't think about a space blanket.
No, I bought a load of them a while back. We've got loads in the first aid kit in the van.
I've only got 5 here. I'll probably just pinch one from here.
Yeah, if you've got 5, that's probably enough.
I've quite a lot of those.
Yeah.
But
that's very good.
Strips.
I am very proud you are taking a first aid kit.
Well, like I said, I'm extremely accident prone. There's a first aid kit in my house. There's a separate full first aid kit in my car. So I have to take some sort of first aid kit to...
I don't think you can have too many first aid kits in so many places. It's really, really important.
Exactly. And then also I feel like, I don't want to feel horrible on holiday. So like a Rennie's good.
Yeah.
Daralite and Imodium.
Absolutely. Well, these things happen. You hear of people who go on holiday and then don't go out the room for 3 days because they're
sick.
Well, can't trust a fart.
Yes, exactly. If there's any suggestions of what else I need other than now steri strips and...
Yes, absolutely.
A blankie, I'll take it. Not a blankie, but you know what I mean.
Yes. Podcast at lippyandgrumpy.uk for your first aid kit suggestions. And often the suggestions are based on the fact that they needed something and it wasn't in the kit, which is how we've ended up with the saline.
Do you know what I should put in there? Safety pins.
Safety pins, those are always useful. Yes.
I've got a big old packet of those I'll put in. I was also informed that steri strips were actually needed the other day in the Grumpy household.
Yes, you are right.
And it was hidden from me.
It was for various reasons that are fairly obvious. You having issued a no accident diktat that... Yes, the horse whisperer had a coming together with the mouth of one of the horses accidentally and ended up with what appeared at first sight to be a small scratch on her head, but actually...
it was a big old hole.
Well, hang on a minute. Let's warn you, listeners, if you're squeamish, stop listening for 10 seconds down to the skull. You can listen again now. Safe.
It was bad.
So she went to A&E. Wife of Grumpy took her to A&E and... the guy looked at it and they left. They were about 9 o'clock, I think, and it must have been end of shift because he went in and within 10 minutes the guy called her in and he said, "Look, I'm just about to finish. I can fit you in because I can see it's not very much." She said, "Why have you come? It's a scratch." And she went, "It's hurting a lot, and I think it's a bit deeper." And he looked at him and went, "Oh my God, it is, yeah." So cleaned it out and steri stripped it, and it's healing nicely. Actually, there's a faint line there, so it'll be gone in a month's time. But
1 month and 1 day.
I can't be sure it won't happen again in the next 4 weeks.
I do think the horse that mouth she had on her face, it's not the first time it's happened by accident, but he does seem to be very skilled at getting it in exactly the same place.
Yes, that's very true. Yes.
Which her hairline does cover. Her hair would cover that. So I think we're good.
Oh, yeah, it'll be fine. It'll be gone by then. It's healing phenomenally quickly.
I would like to mention, though, when I saw what was on her head, after nobody telling me anything, I was very confused about what it was. I didn't once mention the wedding or the fact I had said not to get injured. I made sure she was okay first.
None of us were brave enough to mention it to you. Kept it to ourselves. Have you seen the new advert for Tesco?
I have not.
With the funny faces. Oh, it's horrible.
I've heard it's not pleasant to watch.
It's really weird. You look at it and you go, that is very, very unsettling. Essentially, if you own a club card, you're happy. So it puts a cartoon happy face over the top. But it looks more like you're either going to rob a bank or you're going to eat somebody. It's the opposite of happy. It's completely creepy. And I find it disturbing, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
And I don't want to see it anymore, Tesco.
I'm going to have a look quickly. Oh my God.
Yeah, see what I mean?
It's terrifying.
It is terrifying.
Have you heard of the film called Smile?
No, can't say I have.
Reminds me of that. Not Smile. Truth or Dare.
No, I've not heard of that either.
Yeah, and there's this very similar looking face. It's creepy. Creepy.
Yeah, so Tesco, no more of that. And please don't... The other advertising agencies, just don't.
Yes.
Don't use it anymore. Now, when I was a lad many decades ago, on the odd occasions you had lemonade or pop, as it tended to be called then.
Ooh, pop.
It came in a glass bottle. And you drank the drink and you took the glass bottle back to the sweet shop or wherever it came from, and you'd get a few pence back as a deposit, which is a great idea because, as our cousin talks about, the wine expert, there's a talk about recycling and reuse. And this was reuse, which is much more environmentally friendly than recycling because you haven't got to crush it all down and remake it. You just clean it, fill it, job's done. Don't understand why it's not being done now. Anyway, the Scots...
It is done in Tanzania.
It's not here, though.
No, that's not here.
No. And in France, I don't know if it's still the case, but you used to go into the local supermarket with your bottle and they would fill it up with the local wine. And then, so you'd have a...
Oh, yes, they did, didn't they?
Yeah. It was a few years ago, but it was always great wine as well.
So and you'd pay basically nothing for it.
It was probably cheaper than... In fact, it was cheaper than the
box of
Perrier or Evian water.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Well, they do drink wine like it's water in France.
Indeed. And quite rightly, not knocking it. Anyway, in Scotland, they've decided to apply this process to plastic bottles, which on the surface seems like quite a good idea. However, I saw a picture today of a gentleman with a bottle at the machine, putting the bottle in, but he's got a bit of string on the bottle. So as soon as it's recognised it and paid his 20p, he pulls it back out again and puts it back in. And somebody else has calculated if you could do 6 seconds per bottle, 10 bottles a minute. If you did a 10-hour shift 5 days a week for 52 weeks, it's a bit extreme, how much do you reckon you'd make?
£3,000?
£312,000. Oh, it's £120 an hour. I mean, obviously it's a bit extreme because you would want to have a bit of time off, and presumably in that 10 hours you've got to go to the loo and have some food. So it's irrelevant, really.
And I mean, if you're not paying tax, you don't need to earn that in a year.
Well, whether the machine actually had enough 20 pences, I don't know.
You'd have to wait for it to be refilled.
This is interesting because the picture that came with the tweet is that's not English. That looks like French.
They must catch on, though, that they go to refill the 20p's and empty the bottles, and there's neither. It
looks like you get a voucher rather than 20p. So the whole thing's a bit nonsense, really. But I thought that was quite funny. That's a typical cartoon thing where you push it in and pull it out with a string. That's brilliant. Now, going back to spacey things, Monday was a spring equinox, and I hadn't realised the equinox, and there's 2 of them in a year, is the only time of the year when day and night are almost exactly equal over the whole world.
Oh,
didn't realise that. Yeah. I don't know how far they are apart, but that's quite an interesting thing. So we now are headlong into spring.
So when do the clocks go forward?
This Sunday.
Oh, no. I don't need to lose an hour.
Many years ago when I worked for a company that had a computer room, when we had big mainframes, the operators worked on a Saturday night into Sunday as part of their normal shift. So one of them worked on the spring clocks going forward, so lost an hour. And he said, how do I get it back? And he went, oh, no, it's the other way around. Sorry, he worked in the autumn, so he worked an extra hour. But, of course, that didn't appear on the timesheet because he's put from 7 till 7.
Yeah.
He said, but I've worked 13 hours. So the data processing manager said to him, well, what you need to do is to make sure you work next spring when the clocks go forward, and then you'll get the hour back. And he looked at him and went, oh, okay. Oh, that's all right. And off he went. 10 minutes later, he put it back in. No. Just add an hour on.
Yes, yeah. I love it. I'm just happy. Yeah, I'll take it. Okay,
yes,
that's a solution. Yeah. Thanks. You've given me a solution.
It did make sense.
Oh, funny.
Now, there's an extra bit I was going to add for this week. I don't think I'll do it every week, but it's ChatGPT Corner, because I am now becoming quite obsessed by this thing.
Are you?
Yes. And interestingly, I was doing a little bit of work last week, to do with extracting data from a database, and I couldn't work out the best way of doing it. I think you were here. Were you here?
Yes.
Yes, you were here.
Yes, because you asked wife of Grumpy.
I did, and she came up with an answer. So anyway, what I found is actually trying to express what you want can be really difficult, and particularly if it's a technical problem. And actually what it came up with was complete nonsense. I mean, it worked, but was nowhere near the solution I wanted. But what I'm seeing is it's very, very good at the English and the language. I presume it's available in other languages as well, but it not necessarily correct. So it gives a good story.
Yeah.
But it's bluffing half the time. It doesn't
pulling it out of its behind.
And one of the solid columns of any sort of computer development is a website called Stack Overflow, and they've banned any answers generated by AI because because the advantage of Stack Overflow is that people have asked a question and go, well, I've done this and this is the way I did it. And somebody else will say, well, I tried that, but actually this is a better way. So you've got some sort of conversation going on there, which having one answer coming from artificial intelligence doesn't give you.
No, yes.
But we are now seeing our AI wars. So obviously ChatGPT's come out, there's a Google one, and there's one that's being worked into Microsoft Bing. So it is full on with the AI wars. And interestingly, Spotify have bought a company called Sonatic, which is some sort of AI platform. What they're bringing out is this sort of personal radio. So it works out the things you want to listen to, and it plays them with some sort of AI introduction in between them. So it is like listening to a radio station, but presumably all the records that it thinks you want to listen to. And it already does that to an extent. So you get a daily mix that appears on there already. But actually, I was thinking about this. What I want from Spotify is to give me music that I've never listened to that I might like.
But knows I would like. Yeah.
Not stuff that I have listened to and it knows I like. Things that I might like, because that's how you discover new stuff. So I think it's still got quite a long way to go. So, Lippy, we've prattled on long enough. It's top tip time.
A top tip in which I have not just made up on the spot.
Really? Fantastic.
Really? Magical. My top tip is relating to what I've already said today, is if you're going on holiday, make yourself a first aid kit bag and take it with you. That's a very
good top tip. It is a little on the weak side, if I'm honest. But
thank you.
We'll forgive you that.
An extension for the top tip, though, is to check you can take the medications into the country, because I wasn't going to do that, and that could have ended badly. I know, because I've had medication for various things for many years, that they recommend you take the physical packets with you rather than just the sort of the plastic tab thing. So they can see your name and address on it. But if it's over-the-counter medicines, and quite frankly, other countries are, some of them are tighter and some are looser in terms of legislation. But it's always worth checking. So my fact of the week came from the Mullard Space Laboratory trip. Oh. The Mars Rovers that are built by NASA in their Jet Propulsion Laboratory. And they come emblazoned with NASA stickers on, as you would imagine. And the Jet Propulsion Laboratory said, we'd really like to put a JPL sticker on the side of it. And that's going, no, not having any of that. No, you're not doing that. You're not advertising. So anyway, so they built this thing, and obviously they're testing it on Earth on this sort of simulated Mars landscape. They look at it and says, what does it say in the tracks? And the engineers had cut JPL into the wheels of the rover. So as it went across the Earth, it was leaving JPL as a trail. And of course, because they don't change stuff, once it's built, they really don't like changing stuff. Didn't do it. Nailed it. Absolutely nailed it. Yeah, as the lady there said, never tell an engineer you can't do something. That's it for this podcast. Thank you so much for listening. You can help spread Lippy and Grumpy's view on life by leaving a review on your favourite podcast platform.
If you're not sure how to leave a review, or if you download from Spotify, there's some help at lippyandgrumpy.uk/review.
And if you would like to get in touch, email podcast@lippyandgrumpy.uk.
So it's goodbye from me.
And goodbye from him.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.